So we've learned how to access the resources and assign them to our students in the platform, which is fantastic. One of the aspects of teaching is that's really important is how to assess their understanding. So let's talk a little bit about assessments and then where we can find those, make those, um, and then of course grade them. So one of the things we looked at in our last video when we clicked on menu and we went to resources, if you remember, I showed you that there was something called check. And in every chapter and section, you're going to see this word check. Check just stands for an assessment. And these are the ones that are already made for you. So you can access those that way. And we can go ahead right here to that gear again and open the resource, take a look at it, get the details, look at the standards, but we could assign this resource in the platform or we could share this to Google Classroom very easily. So those are options. And you'll notice that that online quiz is also in Spanish. So that would be really helpful. And maybe you assign that before you give an actual test. Maybe this is like a pre-test or a practice test for them to do. But let's say you wanted to customize your assessments a little bit more and you want a little bit more control over that. If you were to go up into menu, there's an entire section that says assessment. And if we hit the plus sign, we can see that there's online assessments, a gradebook, and print assessments. We're going to go ahead and click on online assessments, and we're going to see what options are here for us. Now, you'll see that you have two tabs, and we're in my class period 1. And if I wanted to change this up here, I could drop this down and change that, right? So my class period 1, I'm making a test for them. And I could either go to my test library, because let's say I've been teaching this course for a while and I have assessments from last year I want to use. They would be here, right? And we can go ahead and assign that. Now, let's go back and say we're going to create a test. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit new test. And you're going to see all of these options. So the title, and remember we were talking about motion before, so this is going to be a motion quiz, okay? Obviously the subject science, it's for 9th grade. The time limit, it's going to be a quiz. I'll probably give them 5 questions. I'm going to give them 10 minutes. And there's some nice options here available. Do I want students to cross out answers? Absolutely. I want them practicing test-taking strategies all the time. So I'm going to allow that to happen. Do I want them to hide the question navigation bar? Not necessarily. I might want them to be able to navigate between questions. Hide answer choice letters, potentially, depending upon how close kids are sitting. But this is really important. If every kid's on their Chromebook or their device and taking a test or a quiz in my class, the ability to randomize the question order is really powerful. So I'm going to click on that. Again, going back to those test-taking strategies I mentioned, yeah, I want them to have a highlighter. I even want them to have a notepad because I want them to brain dump out some information. And that's a practice that I put it into play in my own classroom. And because it's the motion quiz, I don't know, maybe there's going to be some questions on velocity or acceleration. They might need a calculator. What type? A simple one will do. So those are all of the options for taking the test. And now when you get to student score sheet access, do I want them to view it right after they complete it? Probably not, because my next class is coming in and they're going to take the same quiz. Do I want them to view their scores? No, because I don't want them yelling out across the room, I got a 90 and you got a 60. Do I want them to view it after the test is closed? Potentially, but I may have kids that need to make it up. So I might just select a specified date, right? And I'll set what that date is when I assign the quiz. Do I want the students at that point to view the answer rationale, like why they got the question wrong if they did and why that's the wrong answer? I think that's super powerful. I'm going to click on that. And there's some more options. Do I need some sort of description, directions I can add in here? Do I need to change the language? If I have English language learners, maybe beginning learners, do I want to change that? So that's really helpful. And I'm going to hit submit. So now we have the shell of our test, but we don't have any questions on it yet. How do I do that? Add new. Where do I want to add the questions from? Well, I could add a question and I could go ahead and actually create this question myself, right? Do I want to make a multiple choice question, multiple choice, true, false, short answer, essay, goes on and on and on. There's other option here of file upload. So that's helpful too if you already have a quiz that you like. But let's go ahead and go back. I am going to add a question from a question bank, right? So if I go ahead and add question from a question bank, I'm going to scroll down, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that chapter 3 is the motion chapter. So I'm going to click on chapter 3, test item bank, and you're going to notice I have all of these questions available, lots of questions. But here's the thing. I don't want any true-false questions. If I'm going to assess my kids, I want to assess them the way they're going to be assessed. So I definitely only want multiple choice. And I'm going to do that. And down here, you even can change this based on taxonomy, Marzano, Lexile level, so DOK. So that's really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and hit filter and see what we have for multiple choice. So I have all of these. And you're going to notice too, it'll show you which standards are, or it'll tell you if there is a standard tag to this. So for example, this is 0 tags, right? But maybe I want this question here, right? A 300 Newton force acts on a 25 kilogram object. The acceleration of the object is. All right, I like that question. I can preview it. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my quiz. Maybe this, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I'm assuming that's about Newton's third law. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Newton's first law states this. And let's go ahead and go to the second page and see what my options are. According to the graph, this segment of what, oh, I like that question. That's a great question. And maybe I like this question. So I have now 5 questions added, right? And I'm going to go ahead and go back to my assessment, and I can go ahead and assign this to the class. I could also preview it. So let's preview what my assessment looks like so that we can see that. Or maybe not. It's probably taking a second. That's my guess. Let's go back. But this is the stuff that will happen to you, so I'm not upset about it, right? Let's see, preview. No, we're not previewing the assessment right now. We're going to just go ahead and we are going to assign it. Now, what I could do, again, edit these test settings that we talked about before, right? We talked about those. I randomized the question order, but I'm going to go ahead and assign this to the class, right? And we're going to go ahead and do I want to turn off and on manually, or am I scheduling available times? I would schedule them, right? So when do I want this to open? I'm going to set the date. I'm going to set the time. When do I want it to close? Set the time. Late submission. Do I allow late submissions? Maybe, maybe not. Do I want to give this to all my students, or am I giving this to select students? So when I click on that, if you remember, I only have the one student in this class, but if I had more students, I could go ahead and say, I only want certain students to get this test. So maybe this is like a makeup test for a kid. So just know that. And I also can create groups. So maybe I have like a study group and I'm assigning it to them. So I'm going to go ahead and click off of that, and I'm going to hit assign to class. And the student can view their score sheet. Definitely not at 11 a.m. after the test closes, but we're going to make this, they can view it, I don't know, at the end of the week on the 5th. And I assign this to the class. So this is assigned. Now, let's go ahead and take a look what the gradebook looks like. So if we go back to that menu and I click on Gradebook, it's going to populate, and it's showing right here that if I needed a new assignment, right? What's the assignment name? And I'm going to be able to put that in there. So if I go ahead and I say motion quiz, right? And the due date was, I think it was today that we had it set. The points possible, let's say we said it was a 5-question thing, but I'm going to make it out of 100. Each one's 20 points. I could go ahead and I hit save assignment, right? So now we have that quiz there, and what did Jennifer get? And Jennifer got, when she submits it, she got 100, right? Or so on and so forth. So that's how the gradebook works. If I go ahead and go back to assessment, print assessments, those are those assessments I was showing you before, the checks, but you'll notice here there's chapter tests, right? There's mastering standards. This will probably be the one that you want to look at when you talk about really, so let's open up this resource and take a look at that for the chapter. These are going to be the types of questions that you're used to seeing. So we like these questions. And you'll see some short responses too. But you can go ahead and assign that to the students just by clicking in here. And again, assigning that through the platform or sharing it with Google Classroom. So there are lots of assessments available to you. You can create them online if you don't want to use Performance Matters. And also remember with Performance Matters or Unify that you can create answer-only tests. So if you don't want to create the entire assessment in Unify because it is a hefty task, and you say, you know what, I really like this standardized test practice for the nature of science, and I want to use this, but I want the data in Unify, you could go ahead and open up this resource. And this test the students can take using an answer key only sheet from Unify that you print out. So that's a really powerful tool, and we can go ahead and just assign the standards to it, and you'll have data and reports in Unify. So that's the whole assessment platform in HMH. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Have a fantastic school year.